Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. Hi, my name is Jocelyn and welcome to today's video. So I am super beyond pumped, you guys, for this video because this is going to be my first ever murder mystery video. I have always, you guys, always loved anything that has to do with like murders, homicides, killings, hiding dead bodies, like the forensic science that goes behind it. Like, I feel like I'm very good with it. I don't know, sometimes I feel like I have a sixth sense for this type of shit. Before we do get started, you guys, make sure you guys hit the subscribe button and give me a thumbs up. Let me know that you guys like these types of videos and I can definitely keep doing more of them because I love this kind of stuff. And yeah, I have a lot to talk about in this first case that we're going to be covering. This first case, you guys, it took place in Douglas, Georgia, and the victim, Dorris Worrel. I believe that's how you say her last name. I am so sorry if I pronounced that horribly wrong. Dorris Worrel did not grow up in Douglas, Georgia. She actually grew up in Fort Valley. It's also here in Georgia. It's just a little ways from Douglas, but she grew up there. Growing up, Dorris was an amazing kid. She was very sweet, very nice. As Dorris got a little older, she, went to high school, and she actually attended Westfield High School, and that is where she graduated from as well. She was one of the popular kids, okay? She was a cheerleader, and she was super artistic. So once Dorris graduated from Westfield High School, she went on and went to college, and she actually attended UGA, which is the University of Georgia. It was at college where she met her boyfriend and later husband, John Worrel. Now let's talk a little bit about Mr. Worrel, okay? He wanted to be a professional golfer, and he was actually on the UGA's golf team. He wanted to play professional and just absolutely loved the sport. When Dorris and John started dating, and Dorris introduced him to her family said that John was just a little odd. He was a little hard to talk to, a little difficult to have conversations with. He was very standoffish. Once they both graduated from UGA, they got married right away and moved to Douglas, Georgia to start a family and just settle down and create a life together. John was kind of on the road. He was still trying to be a professional golfer. He was, doing his thing. And Dorris actually took a job as a school teacher. John and Dorris were very involved with their local church. They were members of the church. They were there every Sunday. They were known just to be very nice, kind-hearted people. Now, it would be at their church where their life would kind of take a little bit of a turn. One Sunday morning before church started, they found a 15-year-old girl by the name of Paola Yardberry? Again, I'm so sorry for pronouncing these wrong. They found her on the front steps of the church. She was very upset. She was crying. And Dorris and John went up to her and basically asked her, hey, are you okay? What's going on? And Paola basically told them that she was an immigrant from Venezuela and she had gotten abandoned by her guardian aunt. Things didn't work out and her aunt basically kicked her out and she ended up at the church. Dorris, being the amazing and kind-hearted person that she was, she invited Paola in to church with them and asked her to stay with them that Sunday, just attend church with them. After church, Dorris and John offered to let Paola stay on their couch until she got back on her feet or until she was able to find another relative that she could go live with. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months, and little by little, Paola just became kind of a part of the family. She helped with John and Dorris's kids. They had 2 girls and a little boy, so she kind of became their older sister, their nanny type of thing. Eventually, they just took her in and made her one of theirs. Okay, so let's fast forward a little bit. okay? So Paola has been staying with John and Doris this whole time, and you know, things seem to be going okay. But like I mentioned before, they did have already 2 little girls and a little boy, and now they have Paola, which is, you know, a teenager. So, you know, there was a lot more responsibilities, a lot more that had to be done, a lot more that had to be, you know, taken care of and stuff like that. And meanwhile, Doris is still a teacher at the school, and John was still, you know, going around the country, road tripping, and, you know, playing golf, trying to follow his dreams. However, John decided to go ahead and stop, you know, pursuing his dream to be a golfer, and just kind of stay at home and, you know, be with Doris, his family, and the kids more. And this is where John decided to open a sports park. John went ahead and opened a sports park, which is located on Thompson Drive in Douglas, Georgia. It was kind of like a little amusement park. It had like miniature golf and like go-karts, ball pits, stuff like that. Doris basically stayed at home with the kids and just became like a stay-at-home wife and mom, while John and Paola actually kind of took charge of the sports park, and they were there all the time together, okay? They, you know, anything that had to do with the park, it was always John and Paola. Doris was never really involved with that type of thing. Like I said, she was more of a like stay-at-home mom. So John and Paola handled pretty much anything that had to do with the park. On Wednesday, September 20th, 2005, John's sports park was actually closed because they had to do a bunch of maintenance and cleaning. So they decided to just go ahead and keep the park closed for that day. John and Paola actually told Doris if she could go into the park and basically help clean up like the ball pits and the little kiddie tunnels and stuff like that. Of course, Doris accepted because, I mean, it's her husband. Of course she's going to help him in whatever she can. At approximately 9:40 a.m. on Wednesday morning, John left the park to go down the street to the nearest Lowe's. So at around 11:15, about an hour and a half after John had left for Lowe's, he came back, he opened the front door, and right away found Doris laying in a puddle of her own blood. And John quickly called 911. Upon arrival, the police quickly found, you know, Doris's body, and her apparent cause of death was a gunshot in the back of her head. Police quickly began investigating and looking around and stuff like that, and they actually found Paola hiding in the kiddie tunnels in the park. She had crawled in there when Doris got shot, and she just stayed in there. She did not leave or did not move until the police literally went to go get her. And what's crazy is that like she was like so scared, like so traumatized, that they actually had to carry her out of the park. Like she could not walk. Nothing happened to her. She was unharmed, perfectly safe. Of course, police began to investigate, and they questioned Paola about what she saw because she was the only other person in the park at the time of Doris's murder. And basically what Paola told the police was that her and Doris were cleaning, and all of a sudden there was knocking on a door in a different place of the park. Doris went to go answer the door. When she opened the door, there was a lot of shouting, banging on metal, and she heard glass breaking. Along with that, there was a single gunshot. The autopsy came back. Doris did die from a single gunshot in the back of the head, but when they, you know, did the autopsy and stuff like that, a piece of one of Doris's fingers was actually missing. So what they think happened was she, you know, went like this to cover her head, and the bullet took off a piece of her finger and went straight through the back of her head. The handgun that was used to kill Doris was actually never found. They looked up and down in the park and they never found anything. I'm not very sure what it was like, you know, in 2005 with like security cameras and stuff like that, but no security camera footage was ever really found or looked at or anything like that. So you know, maybe there wasn't any security cameras at the time, but the police investigation did bring up something. They found out that John was actually having a romantic affair with Paula. And they also found out that John had been having affairs with at least 2 other women. Doris' sister Leanne actually told police that Doris already knew about the affairs. She wasn't exactly sure kind of like with who they were or anything like that, but she was more than 100% sure that John had been cheating on her with multiple other people. So, you know, Doris was not, she was not blindsided. She knew what was going on and everything. And Doris's sister Leanne and her friend advised Doris to pack up her and her children's things and move back with her mom and, you know, like leave that life behind, leave John behind. But Doris said, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to run. That just means that they won. And you don't know what they're going to do to me. Now, I don't think Doris necessarily knew the lengths that John would go to, but I definitely think that she might have feared for her life. At the beginning, police were kind of thinking, oh, maybe it was like a gang-related crime, because around where the sports park was, there was a lot of like gang activity and just like a lot of, you know, that type of thing. And at one point, John had actually told a couple of the people that, you know, were gang affiliated to leave the property and, you know, not come back. But after what they found about John and Paola and what Doris's sister Leanne said about the whole situation, they turned their attention to John and Paola. They started digging into Paola and they quickly found that Paola was here illegally. When she first got here, she had like a visa permit type of thing to be here, but it had expired. Police took that to their advantage, and while Paola was having lunch with a bunch of her friends at one of Douglas's most busiest restaurants, police went in and arrested her right then and there. They thought maybe once we get her in, she'll get scared, she'll talk. John found out, you guys, and basically like rose hell. He hired her an attorney and wanted to pay her bond, but the district attorney actually blocked her bond, so there was no way of her being able to get bailed out. And while Paola was detained, she didn't really say much about what happened. She kind of just stuck to her story. Later on, they came out with a statement saying that they believed Paola had something to do with it. What she mentioned while she was getting questioned led them to believe that she had more information than she was sharing. So they just ended up deporting her since, you know, she couldn't bail out or anything, and she got deported back to Venezuela. After Paola got deported back to Venezuela, John became the main suspect in Doris's murder. However, they never really had any concrete evidence to support this other than just, I mean, come on. You know what I mean? But you really can't take just come on to trial. You know what I mean? You have to have hardcore evidence to support, you know, your claims and stuff like that. So they never were able to pin it on him exactly. And at the beginning, John was very helpful, very nice, and just cooperative with the police. But after Paola got deported and, you know, things were kind of starting to point towards John, he became a lot less available. He didn't necessarily want to talk to the police anymore, and at one point he hired an attorney to represent him. They actually arrested 2 individuals, one by the name of Glidden Humberto Rodriguez, he was 39, and Brandon Eugene Cage, he was 20. Glidden was an employee at the sports park, but Brandon was not. They arrested them for conspiracy to commit murder, which basically means that they talked about committing the crime, but never actually pulled the trigger. Because John had mentioned the whole like gang issue earlier on, they maybe, you know, they had something to do with it, or they had more information. But when they brought Glidden and Brandon in for questioning, they didn't say shit, you guys. They didn't open their mouths. Not once did they say anything about the crime. They just stayed quiet, okay? Nothing was ever said from them about the crime. John actually decided to sell the sports park and pack up all his stuff along with his kids and move to Florida. He just wanted a new beginning, a new start for him and his kids. He wanted his kids to grow up, you know, like normal kids, and not have to worry about, you know, what the townspeople were saying. Most of the time when they went out, he felt like half the time the people were looking at him with, you know, sympathy and pity. The other half of the time people were looking at him with like disgust. People really believed that he had something to do with the death of Dorris. They actually had property in Florida, so, you know, they weren't just like moving away to a whole new place. They had been there a few times before. They kind of knew the area and stuff like that. So he decided to go ahead and move. After John and his kids moved down to Florida, Brandon and Glidden had been released because they didn't have enough evidence to keep them. Like I said, they never said anything. They never found anything else. So they had no other choice than to, you know, set them free. They served their time for conspiracy to commit murder, and they were on their merry way. When John heard this news, he said, it's time to fucking dip. He actually went and took their family dog to get euthanized. He went and withdrew all 3 kids from school, like out of nowhere, like in plain day, just went in and unlisted the kids in school and packed up all his shit, and they moved to Costa Rica. Now this rose a lot of questions. First of all, why would you move to Costa Rica? Like, you had nothing there. You didn't know anybody there. I don't even think they had ever been there before up until like they moved. It was weird. It was just like John was leaving his old life behind to go and start something new. This didn't sit well with police and investigators. A group of PIs, which is a group of private investigators, actually flew out to Costa Rica to try and figure out where John went and what he was doing in Costa Rica. Why the hell did he just up and leave? They quickly began working and trying to figure out where John was, and it didn't take them very long until, you know, they found him. And guess who the fuck he was with? None other than Paola. And they were actually running their own ice business. You guys know the bags of ice that are like at the gas stations? They would deliver those like bags of ice. The investigators followed them around and, you know, watched them for a little bit, and they quickly realized that Paola basically took Dorris's spot. She kind of became the kid's mom, and at this point she was married to John. Investigators, you know, asked people, local people around Costa Rica, like if they knew them, and just, you know, typical questions. A lot of the people around them were like, they're great people, they're very sweet, very kind. Just basically talked nothing but amazing things about John and Paola. At one point, they noticed that they were being followed or like watched or something, and Paola actually approached them. She even threatened to call her attorney and police on them.
Thank you. We're from the TV show Crime Watch Daily.
Get away from there, the video. Stay away from us. I'm going to call an attorney right now. Get away from us. I'm telling you right now. I'm calling the police and I'm calling an attorney. Get away from us.
You're doing a cold case, John. Murder and wife.
The private investigators gathered all the evidence that they had and everything, you know, all the pictures, all the videos and stuff like that, all the statements from everybody that they took, and they sent it back to the Douglas Police Department to try and see if there was something that they could get John and Paola on. But because they were in a whole new country, it was very, very hard to do anything. And again, what they sent back to the police department didn't really pin them against anything. They just, I mean, they just looked like shitty people. Eventually, you guys, the case just went cold. There was nothing else that, you know, was ever found. Nobody ever came forward and said anything, and that was kind of that. If you have any information over this case, anything that you guys think that may, you know, help with figuring out who was the person that shot and killed Dorris, you can go ahead and call the number that's like on the screen and stuff like that, and, you know, let them know what's up. Let them know that you have some information. That's going to be it for my first murder video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys learned about a new case. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your week, an amazing rest of your day. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.